power on.
Greetings and salutations. I'm Associate Bob. We met before, ever so briefly. I was groveling in fear at the time.
You got the salt over there, Bob?
Salt is not good for you, hence it is illegal.
Sir John Spartan, tell me, what do you think of San Angeles 2032?
Well, considering the way things were going when I went in, I thought the future would be a rotting cesspool.
Oh, you weren't here when the real disturbances began. Civilization tried to destroy itself. The city degenerated into a total fear zone. The citizenry cocooning in their homes, afraid to go out. People just wanted the madness over. So when I saw the chance to make things right, I seized it. If I had not, the radiance of San Angeles would not be here. Just your rotting cesspool of hate and suffering. Which would you prefer?
Maybe you can book me a flight out of here when this sermon's over.
John Spartan, for your crimes, you would surely have died in jail before now. Even you must appreciate the persuasively tranquil humanity of the cryo-prison system.
I don't want to spoil your dinner, pal, but my cryo sentence was no sweet lullaby. I had feelings and I had thoughts. How about a 36-year nightmare about people caught in a burning building?
You were awake? I don't think so.
I do think so. And my wife beating her fist against a block of ice that used to be her husband. Then you were nice enough to wake me up and let me know everything that meant something in my life is gone. It would have been more humane to stake me down and leave me to the fucking crows.
What would you say if I called you a brutish fossil, symbolic of a decayed era, gratefully forgotten?
I don't know. Thanks.
Accessing historical database. Year 2020. The tech giants become aware of the greatest threat to their corporatist domination. An obscure science and tech podcast becomes a major factor in a peaceful open source revolt against the military Silicon Valley industrial complex. The podcast, Sovryn Tech. Its host, Dr. Brian Sovryn. The tech giants tried to stop Sovryn Tech. They can't.
The double hour of power coming to you live. Well, not exactly live. It's pre-recorded, right? But it kind of gets recorded live. Anyway, it is Sovryn Tech coming to you from Ice Planet Zero. Kind of feels like Ice Planet Zero today. Got a nice little cold front coming in, but boy, I will take the break because sometimes in the studio, in BDSM Studio 3, baby, it gets hot. Well, frankly, for a lot of reasons, because sometimes all kinds of things are going on. And you never know who shows up. But anyway, this week it is me alone, though I think we're planning on the next couple episodes somewhere in there to have, of course, the lovely and wonderful and absolutely brilliant scientist and engineer that is Ellen Sovryn on the show again. Got a lot of subjects to cover, including BCI. Yes, there was that demo done with pigs by Elon Musk. And of course, I am going to bring on some of the most brilliant minds in the world to talk about it. We'll get into that in future episodes of Sovryn Tech. But this week, we have so much to get into. There's just no way. Everything that I have in the show notes, it's impossible, or not the show notes that you see, but the show notes in front of me. It's absolutely impossible that I'd be able to get to it all. I mean, there's no way. So I don't want to preview too much because I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to squeeze in and what I can't. But we're going to go forward with it anyway. And of course, the golden stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star, Dr. Brian Sovryn here for you as he is every week. And wow. Some surprises for sure, things that we did not see coming. And in fact, we got to talk about that when we get into some of these subjects. But one thing, so there's a product we're going to talk about here in the opening, which frankly could be the centerpiece of the entire show. And as far as I can tell, nobody saw it coming, which you got to give a company credit for that. But opening it up, this is something that people have known was on the way for a very, very long time. And it's very rare. It's been a long time, even though I am an expert with the, shall we say, the Android operating system. I mean, I've literally written and, in fact, working on the next edition, but I've literally written the security manual for Android, the operating system. So, and for smartphones more in particular, of course, which you can find at darkandroid.info. But anyway, so, I know what I'm getting into here when I talk about this, but even so, I rarely find it, I'm rarely inspired to discuss a new smartphone. Like I frankly couldn't care less what horseshit Samsung is coming out, or should I say Scamsung is coming out with this year. The Galaxy S20D, so I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're not just boring, they're pointless. And I mean, it's such a, well, anyway, we don't have to get into the economics around that and the very clear money grab with very little value situation that the Galaxy line finds itself in, or of course, even the horror story of the Galaxy Fold. In fact, bringing up the Galaxy Fold kind of lends nicely into what I want to open up talking about. And that was the not surprise announcement, as in we didn't know this was coming. We well knew for, frankly, years that this was on its way, but that it was finally going to end up being released, that being the Microsoft Surface Duo. Now, the Surface Duo, of course, Microsoft's Surface line, is a line of hardware that has had varying degrees, but overall success. I mean, right from the laptop to the Surface Pro and so on. I mean, this is a hardware line that a lot of people really count on, that intrigues a lot of different market sectors, and I understand why. And of course, I mean, and they kind of fit into that aspirational line, much like Apple's products do. And the Surface Duo is no different, but it is different in the fact that it is a dual screen phone. Granted, it's not the first one. Samsung's kind of done it. LG has kind of done it, and so on. But this is one, that makes for an interesting entry. And it really came out of nowhere, middle of August. The announcement that it was going to end up getting released in September, I think September 10th is going to be the official release, and the starting price is around $1,400. That price goes up not too much significantly, but it goes up significantly, say, the more onboard storage that you want to go with. And really, those are the only two options. So it's coming out September 10th. You can pre-order it now. There is a link in the show notes where you can find that. I've read some of the, pre-reviews, people that have gotten demo handsets. And I mean, what a lot of people are talking about is just how thin this thing is, but there's a bigger, I want to talk about the specs. Again, it's not the first dual screen phone, but I think it might be the first one that is a genuine success and that people really talk about. I mean, it's got me talking about it, partly because, well, of what the reasons that we'll get into, why this is important for Microsoft. Okay. But let's talk about the specs before we get into more of the, shall we say, the philosophy and necessities around this. Snapdragon 855. Basically what that means is, I mean, that's a fine processor. Basically that means this thing won't have 5G. In my opinion, good. That's a plus. So, I know I had recently said, it was a couple episodes ago on Sovryn Tech. I want to say it was episode 386. I think it was actually titled The Last Phone, and that was before Microsoft had announced the full specs and release of the Surface Duo. But I had said basically, the Google Pixel 4a, that's the last phone that I would ever recommend or buy because, I am not interested in the 5G future whatsoever. The Surface Duo, if you wanted to go this direction, I wouldn't have any real trouble recommending this. Again, I'll explain why. I know what you're saying. Brian's recommending Microsoft. let's talk about it. Okay. In fact, I mean, this might not be the first time in this episode that I end up recommending Microsoft. Okay. But let's talk about it. So, okay. So you got the Snapdragon 855. Again, the main takeaway from that, it's fine. It's powerful. No 5G. Again, I think that's a good thing. 6 gig of RAM. That's actually comparable to the Google Pixel 4a. That's fine. That's well above what any phone should really need, even though certainly app developers and Google as the operating system developer find ways to make you need that. Thus, you have to buy into the cycle. But anyway, 128 gig and 256 gig storage configurations. And that's where the price, kind of changes. Starts off at $1,400, then goes up as you buy into the 256 gig, storage option, which 128 gig is going to do you fine. But I really do understand why they're offering a 256 gig option. And well, again, we will talk about that. I don't believe that it has a micro SD card slot. So that 256 gig is what you get, but understand that this device, while certainly Microsoft is offering it to consumers, a big play that they're going here for is enterprise, right? Which of course is Microsoft still to this day, their bread and butter. And to not have a micro SD card allows for a lot more security plays for the platform. So them not wanting a micro SD card on it, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I think that's also somewhat similar to the reasons that Google doesn't include a micro SD card slot on their Nexus phones back in the day or their Pixel line now, is because it's just one more vector. It's another attack vector. Now, I like my phones having a micro SD card slot, and Google has taken great strides to make a micro SD card more secure storage on the Android platform. But is it easier to call that security and to say, hey, no, we've got this wrapped up and whatever, if it's all on board and there's no expansion option? Yeah, of course. And granted, you still arguably could go with an expansion option if you used like a USB-C, flash drive of some type and just plugged it in at the bottom. I mean, there's certainly options there. And this does have USB-C. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer at this stage. But anyway, so the single screen, and you can fold this in different ways. All right. To where, you're only seeing one screen, or you can have it folded open, like a book. Single screen, it's only 5.6 inches. And it's a 4:3 aspect ratio, and then open totally, it's a 8.1 inches with a 3:2 aspect ratio. Now that 3:2 aspect ratio is an important one. Obviously with the 4:3, that lets you know sort of the shape of this thing is that it's closer to, like, say the BlackBerry Passport, if you remember that, where it's a wider option instead of like the more candy bar-esque nature of most smartphones today, where they have like the 21:9 aspect ratio and whatever. But the important thing here, and I'm sure this is exactly what Microsoft was going for, is the 3:2 aspect ratio, which 3:2, if you remember, is what a lot of laptops, including Chromebooks, in fact, some of Google's own Chromebooks and so on, were going towards. Because if the idea is that you're looking at websites, 3:2 is the most optimal aspect ratio for websites, basically for interacting with the World Wide Web. So it makes sense that they wanted to go 3:2 and not full on widescreen, right? Do they, is this going to be a problem for watching movies and all this stuff? Yeah, I guess it's going to make some black bar situations somewhere. But again, Microsoft's interest here is about productivity. The theme of this device is productivity, and that's key. But let's keep talking about it a little bit. It's going to have Bluetooth 5.0. I mean, we could keep going down the whole list here of what's available on it. It does have a mono speaker. It is not like the really nice stereo speakers like, say, HTC used to put in and so on. But, that does the job. Does have a fingerprint scanner. And the battery is a 3,577 milliampere battery. It's supposed to be able to get you through the day. On standby, I guess it can do up to 10 days. we'll see. You can use the Surface Pen with it, but in that price tag of $1,400, the Surface Pen is not included, but it is optimized for use with the Surface Pen, which of course, what does that cost? I don't know, 50, 100 bucks, somewhere around there. That is designed for use with other Surface devices. Of course, that only makes sense. Weighs 250 grams. So it's pretty light. I've seen some of these pre-reviews where people were putting it into their pocket. It's slightly larger than your latest Galaxy, whatever the fuck. And so it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to put into your pocket. But again, we need to talk about, so we've got all of that out of the way as far as, the specs. It's a fine phone spec wise, not like the biggest powerhouse out there, but it's pretty damn good. Now you got to understand what this is about. And frankly, I think this is a genius move on Microsoft's part. I don't think they planned this ahead of time, but it is a natural progression, frankly, of the entire Surface hardware line, meaning that Surface has always been getting you used to, this foldable, multi-function, multi-aspect ratio foldable device, right? The original Surface Pro, that was getting you used to using Windows more like a tablet, getting you, used to using a touchscreen and so on, maybe even using the Surface Pen, etc. Understand that Bill Gates himself, over a decade ago, was saying that handwriting was the next wave in computing in general. So, using a stylus, using a pen, is something that Microsoft has very clearly had their eye on for much longer than any other company has implemented such a thing, minus, like the little stylus, sure, that Palm would have or whatever, but you get my point. The Surface line culminates in a device like this. And you've got to understand that, as we've been saying, I think, because I saw like a lot of in the comments section and a bunch of different stories about the Surface Duo. You have a lot of Microsoft, the Microsoft faithful, diehards, we'll call them that, who, they're wanting, hey, can we eventually get this with Windows on it? I don't, and there were a lot of them asking for that. And I'm sure at some point that was even a consideration. And certainly when Windows 10, mobile was still being worked on, and I forget the feature that they had where you could port out to a full screen and to a keyboard and mouse and everything. And I was very bullish on that. I thought that was a brilliant idea and a brilliant move. I don't think that Microsoft is looking to put Windows 10 on a Surface Duo eventually. I think that this points at an overall strategy for Microsoft, right? It's important to understand that, again, where Microsoft seems to make, by the numbers that we can look, where Microsoft seems to make the bulk of its money is with what used to be called an Office 365 account, right? And I have said for years on this show that is a no-brainer deal. The value, especially compared to what you used to pay for just offline, full-on versions of Office, of Microsoft Office, paying the $10 a month or what have you, is a steal. And you really do, especially before OneDrive Gate, you got tremendous value out of that. And in many ways, you still do. Now, of course, that got rebranded, and we talked about this. And this points at part of the theory when this rebrand did happen. And I was even talking about it years before that. But when it rebranded earlier this year to Microsoft 365, to that account, notice it's not Windows 365. It's not Office 365 anymore either, but it's also not Windows 365. It's Microsoft 365. Now, the idea that Microsoft has been converting to services, a lot of people have realized that. It's been announced in many ways, whether directly or not. But this company knows that Windows has to know Windows is not its future. The bad press around Windows itself right now is, I get it. The diehards are out there and everything, but it's reaching a breaking point, to the point that you have commentators well beyond me who are saying, hey, just go out and buy a Chromebook. Just go out and buy this. Just, start learning Linux now. Just get off of Windows. There are so many tech podcasters, commentators, and journalists, making that claim. However, even while I have said such things, I've said, look, you're never going to get away from Microsoft Word. There are so many aspects within the enterprise space that you're never going to get away from with Microsoft. Or even, Edge. I mean, we're going to talk about Firefox here in a little bit and what Mozilla is up to, and it's not good. I've had no problem in the past recommending, just on a matter of software and account minimalism, if you use Windows, fine, use Edge, because it's already installed. And because if you install another web browser, again, that becomes another attack vector and another account that you have to make, or often that you have to make. Not all web browsers require that, but it's going to be, you're installing another attack vector. And Microsoft Edge, I mean, I've praised its security for some time, and its implementation with Credge has been pretty solid. And its availability on iOS and Android and upcoming on Linux even, I mean, there's an argument to be made for its use. And again, that argument could be even stronger when we talk about Mozilla here in a few minutes. Point being is that having that Microsoft account is a very attractive option and is a full services option right at the get-go. That doesn't really require Windows to do much of anything. I mean, the only thing right now, the only thing that Windows, like the great argument for it, again, would maybe be Photoshop, right? Or, Microsoft Word and so on. Even then, you could run that on Apple or whatever. And I mean, the time has to be coming where Office ends up on Linux. And of course, you can run Office online, right into a web browser on Linux, no problem. But maybe that doesn't even have to happen, okay? Because this device, I mean, let's get down to it. This device, the Surface Duo, I'd love to get my hands on one. Certainly that's a high price tag, much more than I usually would ever pay for a phone. But I'd love to get my hands on one to do for a review. But I get it, is that this is that productivity device, especially with USB-C, where, you could still do this, the whole business where you port it out to where, you connect it to it has Bluetooth 5.0 as well, where you connect it to a monitor, and then you connect it to, keyboard and mouse. And there you have your productivity suite, right? It's an all-in-one device that does run. I mean, it's abundantly clear with, Connect to PC and a lot of other apps and features that Microsoft has been working on. They are doubling down on Android. They're even porting, the whole security suite over to Android. Microsoft Security is an app that's going to be available in the enterprise space. And that app's only going to work even better. Again, that adds into more of that security conversation around why there wouldn't be a micro SD card on this and so on. So, I mean, they're pushing hard with Android. And I think this is, and to get to my point, I think this is the absolute right move for Microsoft to do. Transition away from Windows and in many ways, sure, it's going to be on Android, but ultimately it's what they were trying to do with Windows 10 Mobile. And now it's just a reality, and it's a synergy of software and hardware. It's interesting that you have, and maybe this says something to this, that you had Microsoft stores shutting down. Now, you could argue that Microsoft stores were largely shut down. There's only, 3 or 4 left. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, that they are shutting down because of COVID. A lot of companies are using that argument, including Mozilla. I don't really buy that. Okay. Makes for a good excuse. I'm sure it sounds good to investors. I don't necessarily buy that. What I could believe more, just like the reason why did Mixer shut down? Because Microsoft, I think, is trying to make their acquisition more attractive, even though there's a lot of challenges around this. And at some point we have to have the conversation around TikTok, right? The video platform. I think Microsoft was I think they expect the TikTok deal to go through, and they don't need competing video services, right? If anything, they could just use all the technology that they acquired with Mixer and make TikTok a stronger video platform, right? So now we're starting to see kind of the picture is that, Microsoft has been trying to acquire US operations at least for TikTok. So that's why they shut Mixer down. Well, here's the rub. I think that the reason that they shut down Microsoft stores is because eventually Microsoft plans on their Surface line. Now, I'm just theorizing. And again, I think it's the right move for them, that they plan on their smartphone business, okay, as in the Surface Duo running Android, being their future, okay? Because, yeah, I mean, so you could get into the argument, wait a minute, what about, Microsoft making money off of gaming and all of this? Sure, they do. But then what are they hooking people into with gaming, right? Like Windows doesn't have to be the gaming platform anymore because they have xCloud, which works on Android, by the way. And I mean, they're already hooking everybody into another no-brainer deal. And we've talked about this. And there's some concerns to be had about, kind of shovelware getting put on there to make it a more attractive proposition, i.e. Battletoads. Okay. But, with Xbox Game Pass for PC, which I think they even, did I talk about this last time where apparently they're dropping the name Xbox from that? Anyway, that doesn't really matter. But you have xCloud and Game Pass, which could eventually become one service. And then really you do have gaming available on the Surface Duo. You just have to connect your peripherals. In fact, what's the game? Hypnospace something? It's for the Switch. I was in awe of this. This is total side note. We'll keep talking about this, total side note. But the game for Nintendo Switch is allowing for connecting a keyboard and mouse. Boy, that is a whole other, we should save that for Gaming Grid because I have other stuff I want to talk about during Gaming Grid. Anyway, bottom line being is that even if something doesn't look like it's designed to have a keyboard and mouse connected to it for some gaming, it could be that. And Surface Duo, I think that could end up happening. I see this device as the culmination and a preview of the future of what's going on with Microsoft. And like I said, it's really, in my opinion, it's the best thing that they can do because they have to get away from the negative press around Windows. There's not a lot of negative press around Office or anything like that anymore. I mean, everybody's praising Game Pass. Everybody's, xCloud is looking very interesting. There's lots of great stuff happening in those directions. Okay. Where Microsoft is getting negative press is absolutely around Windows. They've just got to get away from that. The Surface Duo is their jumping off point. And I get the sense you are looking at the future right there. And it makes sense. And I think that they could pull it off. In a couple years, this could be really, really interesting what's going on with the Surface Duo. My biggest concern in question, and again, the argument around this being centered on security as well as productivity. My biggest concern is how quickly will Microsoft issue Android updates? Is security updates as well as operating system updates. How long will they support it with these very premium devices? They are going to have to match just about Google's release cycle. They're going to have to match that if they want to be taken seriously in the Android ecosystem and if they want to be taken seriously as far as security goes. Okay, they've got to do as good as Apple does and as well as Google does with Android overall. And it's easier for Microsoft because basically they just have to follow, Google's development release cycle as far as Android goes. And again, the reviews mainly, or the pre-reviews that I've mainly seen, which I mean, that's kind of where the word preview comes from. But anyway, that I've mainly seen have been very positive. Like, no, yeah, this is a brilliant device. This is a device that has a place. And again, I think as far as like, how does Microsoft, garner in profitability and so on? Well, I mean, this is a direction to go to keep it coming in, and it's playing on Microsoft's strengths. And again, this can also be a gaming device in the future. It really could. When you get into xCloud and Game Pass and all that, I mean, it's just, yeah, absolutely. So even if you're wondering about that, and I mean, there's other issues with PC gaming, some of which actually Rob was sharing me in on some of this, my co-host, which we got some episodes of TIE Fighter Renegades coming, folks. Don't you worry. But the prices for, the new series of NVIDIA cards, I mean, this is getting crazy. And when you can, again, pay for basically, and I'm not saying I don't even really like subscription services. I don't. You know that. If you've listened to Sovereign Tech for a while, I am not a fan of this sort of thing. Okay, even if there are deals out there that just make all the sense in the world, like why wouldn't you pay for that? Okay, but I mean when it gets to the point where you're spending thousands, not not for an entire gaming PC, but when you're spending thousands just for your video card, people aren't going to put up with that, and when they can get AAA games on their Surface Duo or whatever, I mean, you better believe they're going to jump on it. So anyway, this is really, really interesting stuff with the Surface Duo. It's definitely a, no pun intended, game-changing device that I think was worthwhile us exploring a little bit. Something else that's game-changing, and then I want to get into that product that I don't think anybody saw coming. In fact, I might even switch gears a little bit and make that I might even make that our main story. But Audible, out of nowhere. Now, we spent some time, I think it was a couple episodes ago, we spent some time talking about how Audible was planning on bringing in podcasts. In fact, they sent an offer out to this show, to Sovryn Tech, saying, hey, we'd like to have you on our platform for podcasts and everything. And I was debating, I don't know what this is going to look like when podcasting on Audible, as I had said at that time, talk about no-brainers, is an absolute no-brainer. I mean, because it's a built-in audience, 50 million, millions and millions of people who are just hungry for podcast-esque content, right? And a lot of Audible originals, as Ellen said, are basically podcasts in themselves anyway. They're barely an hour long or a little bit over an hour. The other day, it's about a week ago as of when this is going to get released, and this is getting released on August 31st, 2020. The other day, like I said, about a week ago, I got an email it wasn't even the email. Actually, it was a notification within the app for something called Audible Premium Plus. And what this is, and they just upgraded every account that, whether it's you have a gold Audible account or a platinum Audible account, they updated it to where it's Premium Plus. And what this means is that there are, I want to say, thousands of audiobooks and Audible originals. And in the marketing material, in the press material, it did say podcasts as well, which, I've looked for Sovryn Tech at this stage. It hasn't come out yet. I know I was one of the first podcasts, to get that email to, submit your podcast for being included in Audible when it happens. But the podcast part doesn't seem to be central, even though, again, it is in the press kit. But now, yes, absolutely. There are books that normally you'd have to hash out a credit for that you can get, you can listen to for free now. And you don't just stream them, because the way the press materials read, it sounded like you more or less, you had to, that you were going to stream them. But no, it downloads it totally offline, because if it was streaming, it wouldn't be as attractive, right? I mean, part of what's attractive about an Audible account is that you download the book, and whether you have a connection or not, away it plays. And that is a very handy thing. So if it was only going to allow me to stream some of these, audiobooks available for free, that wouldn't have been as interesting, even though really anything you add on to an Audible account at present pricing and based on what is a present offering is really is gravy. I mean, it's already well worth the money. Anything you add on is just, icing on the cake, as it were, or again, gravy. But no, it acts like, whatever is available. And it's not just Audible original books either. There are books, and I don't know what the criteria is. I've tried to find answers on this. There aren't any. I don't know if it's something where, like with Netflix or, Hulu, I don't know, whatever, any of those streaming services, none of which I buy. I don't know if it's like where there is a specific window where these audiobooks are available for free, and then there's a time where they get taken away. But basically, when you click on them, they get added to your library as if it was a book that you bought or spent a credit on. This is a huge deal, because this is turning Audible very much into, of course, sort of what it could only be compared to before, or the only one that could really, call it. It's and I hate using these kinds of phrases, but fine, we're going to run with it. It is the Netflix for audiobooks. It has literally become that now. And to some degree, even better, though I know you can download videos onto your device from Netflix. I like this. I'm glad that it's an option. Admittedly, you could kind of already do this. a lot of people don't know, but there's a couple other points to get into with this that I want to talk about. A lot of people don't realize that as long as it's a book that you bought within the last year, as in the last 365 days, you can exchange an unlimited amount of books for any reason whatsoever. There's like a self-service version to it where you get your credit back or you get your refund or whatever. But even after like you've returned so many and the self-service aspect of it stops, all you have to do is contact customer service at Audible. And every single time, as long as it's, not more than a year old in your library, you can exchange your book for anything. So ultimately, like you could listen to as many books as you wanted on one credit, right? If you really wanted to. So this is already sort of possible. Okay. You'd be kind of scheming in doing so. Now I wouldn't recommend doing that where you'd get you'd just keep, refunding the one credit over and over again, because admittedly, there are a lot of books that audiobooks that I want to keep for all time. I keep my entire Star Wars collection on Audible. There are quite a few books that I regularly want to keep for reference material. For example, like Virus of the Mind. I would never exchange that book because it's a short book, but B, it's one that I would listen to over and over again because it's material that I think is so important to navigating the world, not just the modern world, any version of the world, that's a book that I constantly go back to, and re-listen to. And there are other books like that. There are many, but there are a few that I always have on hand, and that any new device I get, I download instantly and keep them in my Audible app ready to go. So, there are books that you want to hold on to, in my opinion, for all time, or at least I hope there are. But anyway, so, and speaking to that, okay. Like I said earlier, I don't like subscription services. I mean, I just don't. I don't dig them at all. Part of the attraction with Audible, and understand I've had Audible, my Audible account is older than Amazon's acquisition of it. Part of the reason I like Audible is because you own the content, even when it gets removed from the Audible store. It is still available to you in your library. It's still on the servers. Okay. For example, actually the day after this episode gets released, and this probably has to do with Apple coming out with the Foundation series and everything, which I don't have a whole lot of hope for, but we'll see. There is a re-release of a few Isaac Asimov classics. The entire Galactic Empire trilogy is getting re-released and reread. The End of Eternity, which some people argue is Asimov's greatest book, is also getting a new narration and newly released on September 1st, 2020. Now, there has been a version of Edge of Eternity available, and it's a good one, available on Audible for years. I mean, for as long as Audible's basically existed, I think that it's been on there. And that, if you go to look it up now on audible.com or in the Audible store, that original version of End of Eternity is no longer there. But I have it, and I can delete it, re-download it, delete it, re-download it over and over again. But if I, try to find it in the store, it doesn't exist anymore. Why? Because they want you to buy the new version, or they want to give you the new version. In fact, I'm frankly a little bit peeved about the matter because, okay, if this one's not technically available, I mean, it is technically available to me all the time because I got it with my credits. Could you upgrade me to the new version, please? I think that'd be nice. Maybe I'll contact customer service about that. We'll see. But anyway, point being is that when I lay down a credit, or the money on an audiobook in Audible, it is mine, and it is mine for as much as these services allow for all time. I like that. It makes Audible, even though it is technically a subscription, as in I pay a certain amount every month, right, to get those credits. It is a hybrid model of sorts where, sure, you pay that set amount, but you own whatever you grab with that set amount. And it doesn't disappear like, movies and series do on Netflix, and so on. In fact, I know some Sovereign Tech listeners, they were talking about in the Sovereign Tech Telegram group, good luck finding a good version of, the Stargate franchise like SG-1 and Atlantis and so on any streaming service that's of any decent quality or even available. Like, I mean, these things just keep changing hands and disappear, and it's a pain in the ass. It makes a great argument for why perhaps you'd want to own discs. Again, that also makes a great argument for why you would want to own, as much as you can, books within Audible, right? So while I think that the Premium Plus is, it's a bonus and a fine one, it's not something I still would not rely on it. And if Audible ever gets to the point where the credit system goes away, color me disappointed, because I guess I'm just hardwired that way. I don't know if I'm old school. I'm not old. I mean, I'm 39, but I'm not that old. But I like to own my stuff. Okay. I know there's a lot of people that have been really become ensnared and entrapped in subscription models that they'll pay into perpetuity. And boy, I could get into a big conversation around that. Because I think subscription, I'm just going to hint at it. If you want me to talk about it more, you ask me the question, you email me questions@sovereigntech.com. I think subscription models basically pacify change in the world. And I mean real change that benefits the individual. I am willing to go that far to say that it pacifies. I mean, that there we go. You want to hear more about it? You gotta, if you're not interested in me talking about that, fine. Then you're not, because I know how many people get ticked off when I say that, well, Netflix users are communists. People get livid when I say that sort of thing. Do you realize how outrageous it is that to be criticized or to criticize people who have a Netflix account, that is somehow a damnable offense? It's as if I insulted Christ somehow. That's the strong reaction that I get out of people. Folks, when you have a strong reaction like that, you need to pause, reflect, and look back and say, am I a member of some kind of cult? That's all I'm going to say on it. Anyway, so besides people being pacified by subscription services, let's move. I'm not incendiary on purpose. This is the stuff that runs through my head. But anyway, this is a very interesting move on Amazon's part. I could see them, and I don't want it to be this way, I could see them moving towards a more truly Netflix style subscription service because right now, if you stop paying for your Audible account, all the books that you've bought over the time that you've had an Audible account, you still get to access them through the Audible app, right? Now, yes, we can solve all this by using Open Audible and all that, on a Windows machine or whatever. But anyway, we're not going there. But that's why, it's having an Audible account isn't a tough pill to swallow, because when you own it, you own it. Even if you're not paying into the subscription, even if you're not paying into Audible anymore, you own it. That is not true with a Premium Plus account. And again, if things are going to shift towards where everything is Premium Plus, and when you stop paying for Audible, you no longer get access to those books. Again, that's when I can no longer use Audible comfortably, to where I feel okay with parting with my money. So anyway, we'll see where that ends up going. And also, I want to get into this because they are pushing the narrative and the verbiage of podcasts really hard with the Audible Premium Plus subscription. I am starting to wonder, and I theorize that this might be true, that you have to be a paying Audible customer to access podcasts on Audible, including podcasts like, say, Sovryn Tech. Now, of course, you can get them for free with any other podcast app. So it's not, there's not a big deal there, but some kind of power play to where it funds podcasters could get taken advantage of through this Premium Plus subscription, as it were. And I was a little worried about that, but we'll see what ends up happening as far as that goes. Certainly something we're keeping an eye on, but I'm just paying attention to that finer point. And, I've got two other things I want to get into for the foreplay where we talk about the little stories, but these haven't been little stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump my main story that I had lined up, and we're going to get into some trouble in Silicon Valley. We're going to talk more Amazon, and we're going to talk some Mozilla during our main story segment. I'll be right back with some more Sovryn Tech. Hey, is Sovryn Tech not enough for you? Well, let me tell you about something you'll never get enough of. No, I mean it. We're talking about a radio show and podcast that goes all night long, 7 nights a week, 3 hours a night, 365 days a year, and has been going since the early aughts, baby. I am talking about none other than Free Talk Live. It's the show you control. That's right. It's an open phones call-in show that is ready for you. And if you're worried that your voice isn't going to get heard, don't be. We are talking about the only libertarian radio show stateside. And not only that, it's also the number 26 talk show in the United States. Start listening now and go ahead and hit that massive back catalog at freetalklive.com. The Golden Stallion guarantees a good time, and you might even find some episodes with me on them when you do. That's freetalklive.com, and we thank them for sponsoring Sovryn Tech. Let's get back to the show.
The main story.
So it is time for the main story, and originally I was going to, there is a tremendous story in The Guardian called The Case for Making Low-Tech, quote-unquote, dumb cities instead of, quote, smart ones. I'm going to save that. That needs to be explored. That needs to be discussed. And this is a show uniquely positioned, I think, to talk about it from a very broad, dare I even say, holistic perspective. So that is coming. Don't worry. I mean, this is one of the most important stories I've heard in a while. It's also very evergreen. So something else, and this speaks to what originally I was going to get into during the foreplay in the opening. This is the product we didn't see coming. And I want to start by saying kudos, frankly, to Amazon for, and I don't do that often, right? We coined the term, the Amazon World Domination Tour on the show. We are very critical of Amazon here, aren't we? Well, this is going to be no different. But again, opening it up, kudos to them for Amazon for being able to keep a new product, not necessarily a new product category, kind of like the Echo was, but a new product from getting leaked in any way and anybody talking about it. Now, I suppose some might argue that Amazon making a fitness tracker, which is what they have done, it's called the Amazon Halo. I suppose some would say that, well, nobody leaked it because who cares? There's tons of fitness trackers, they're abundant and low value or something like that. They're not even worth leaking. Well, I can tell you, for one thing, that's not true because you have no idea. I mean, I have like the Mi Band 4. There are whole stories that get a lot of clicks that are all just about, rumor mill around the Mi Band 5, from Xiaomi and so on. So no, people get very excited about these sorts of things. Amazingly. Okay. There is a very unique feature and I think unique is absolutely the right term, not rare, unique. There is a unique feature that comes with the Amazon Halo, which we are going to talk about. But we'll break it down a little bit at first. And there is an overall case to be made here. But are we going to be critical of it? Well, let the cat out, or, cart before the horse, or pick your term, pick your your old adage. I don't know. Yes. At the onset, we're going to be very critical of this. There are massive problems and implications to get into here. Let's talk about it. So, in fact, I've got the link in the show notes. I have a few links in the show notes that I think are worthwhile looking at, but this is from Business Insider. Amazon is taking on Apple and Fitbit with a smart wristband and an app that tracks your sleep, judges the emotion in your voice, and scans your body to calculate body fat. Woo! Now, just those features in the headline, minus the big one there, judges the emotion in your voice. Nothing really new, right? And one could easily argue, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that Amazon is that big, okay? And we're going to talk about, because I think a look at a lot of Amazon's recent partnerships and new developments make for an interesting picture when you toss in a wearable, okay? So let's talk about it. Amazon is making a big leap into the health space with the launch of Halo, a new app and wristband that the company says can detect emotion in your voice by analyzing speech and calculate body fat percentage using just your smartphone's camera. The Halo, so again, this is something that works very much with your smartphone, but let's continue. The Halo band will be launching in early access starting on Thursday, meaning those, and that's as of last week, meaning those interested in trying the service will have to obtain an invite. The launch marks the online, and I think it goes for $99. I'm not sure if the story talks about it, but it's $100, which that's, not competitive with the Mi Band line, but competitive perhaps for what it does, and certainly competitive with Apple and Fitbit. Moving on. The launch marks the online retail giant's biggest push into health yet, coming after the firm, this is important to bring up, coming after the firm launched a virtual health clinic for employees last September and said it's building labs to test its workers for COVID-19. It also acquired the online pharmacy PillPack in 2018 for its prescription delivery service. Now, the things that Business Insider, at least in this story, are not, or at this juncture in the story, at the very least, are not bringing up, is that also Amazon has made deals with John Hancock, the life insurance company. Okay. And in fact, John Hancock will give you a free Amazon Halo wearable if you allow for the data to be from the wearable to be collected by John Hancock. But understand, because we're going to get into this a little bit later, particularly when it comes to the tone feature, which judges the emotion of your voice. Understand that Amazon is trying to negate privacy concerns by saying, well, everything's done on device, probably partly why it costs $100 and not $30, like a Mi Band. Everything gets, data collection's done on device or perhaps some degree on an app, but it's deleted afterwards, at the very least with tone. Anyway, so that's great that Amazon wants to claim that, key phrasing there, claim that, but there are insurance companies already that want to collect this data. Is this necessarily new or exclusive to Amazon and their fitness tracker? No, but it's important to bring up. It's important to also bring up that Amazon is very much in the insurance game, not just health insurance, but also auto insurance. I think they made a deal in India in the past couple months for that. But their hands, their fingers, I should say. Actually, no, it's their hands. Their whole fucking hands are in a lot of pies that could make a lot of use and frankly, screw the individual or the consumer with a device and the data collected by something like, the Amazon Halo. Now, like I said, as we talk about this, as we go down the feature set, well, but Amazon says they delete the data, but Amazon says they delete the data. Okay, Amazon does. But then what if you're doing it willfully? Okay, fine, moron. Fine. Okay, you're doing it willfully, but that doesn't mean that other companies can't take advantage of this collected data. And it's remarkable, frankly, already that John Hancock is already making the deal, saying we'll give you $100 free, Amazon Halo, quote unquote free Amazon Halo wearable, as long as we can collect the data. Wow, how, to quote Shakespeare, you hold your manhood cheap, I suppose, if you think that rampant collection of data about you, even while you are asleep, is only worth $100. Boy, do we have a problem with self-esteem and self-value in the world today. But let's continue because we're just scratching the surface of what's going on with this. Amazon is joining a crowded space, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but Amazon is taking a different approach than these companies. Rather than focusing on the device itself, Amazon is positioning Halo as a comprehensive digital health service that leverages both your phone and its accompanying wristband. The company is also delving into metrics that go beyond basic fitness activity and sleep tracking, although its service does offer those measurements too. For example, Halo includes a feature that uses artificial intelligence and your smartphone's camera to take a 3D body scan for calculating your body fat percentage. It also uses machine learning to make inferences about what the tone of your voice says about your mood and energy level during conversations through a new appropriately named capability called Tone. Amazon is offering such services amid growing concerns about privacy and the size and influence of not just Amazon, but other similarly large technology companies. CEO Jeff Bezos recently testified alongside the CEOs from Apple, Google, and Facebook. Oh boy, that was a hoot. You should watch that video if you haven't. Anyway, in a blockbuster antitrust hearing just last month and last year, Amazon was embroiled in controversy over Alexa-related privacy concerns and how police departments are using Ring for surveillance. Amazon says privacy was built into Halo from the ground up and that data from the service will never be used for advertising or other purposes for now. And of course, if you make the right deal with the right company that gives you some kind of a premium discount or gives you a free device or whatever on your monthly bill or whatever the fuck that looks like, you're still going to hand that data over. And as long as it gets handed over to John Hancock and not to Amazon, Amazon is true to its word. But let me ask you this. What happens when this data goes to John Hancock and John Hancock sells it back to Amazon? Or as part of the partnership that they already have with Amazon? Then Amazon didn't collect it, but they did take it. They were offered it after the fact by John Hancock, and then they still get that data. Do you think that that's going to end up happening? Oh, you bet your goddamn ass. Well, again, we're just getting started with what Amazon Halo means. Let's keep going. The wristband will cost $64.99. Okay, during the early access period, then it'll cost $100. After that, it'll be $100. Membership to the Halo app costs $3.99 per month, but Amazon says the first 6 months are free during the early access period. So this is another subscription service. Before you know it, you're going to be hashing out potentially thousands of dollars in subscription services when you thought, oh, gee, it was getting me away from the tyranny of the cable company and blah, blah. Anyway. Now one of the interesting things with the Amazon Halo wristband is that it does not have a screen. Now, this is not the first fitness tracker to have that, right? I think Fitbit might have had like a mini one that did something similar. Razer, as in Razer, Razer, the gaming PC company, they had one that just had little flashing lights. Now, I'll say this much. And Amazon played on this, which I think is very interesting because we have been saying for years on this show, the last thing you need is another screen in your life. Amazon is using that exact verbiage, which does two things. One, it justifies the problem that incessant screens cause, right? Which is what we've talked about as far as attention, among other things, right? The attention wars, talking about this for some time. The other part that is interesting is that this does point at, even though the 3D body fat modeling and everything that it does through the app on your smartphone, this still does point at where the tech giants specifically are looking at getting to a zero UI, right? Or what I've always called HUI, hands-free UI, as in it's a bunch of HUI, where there is no more UI. But then, again, once you lose the UI, well, you ultimately lose control. So it's proving that point as well, that I've been saying this is where the tech giants want to go. They want to go where there is no UI and you are interacting, where basically you are ultimately beholden to whatever their servers will allow you to do. Not what you type in and want whatever you're doing to do, but where you lose control and you can only ask. I mean, people don't even think about this. The concept behind voice assistants, right? Like Alexa, like Siri, like go down the list. You are ultimately, as to where if you are in front of a keyboard or even a touchscreen, you are pushing, you are telling the device what you want it to do, right? You're telling it. There is no asking. It is a device. It is for lack of a better phrase, a servant to your whim, as a machine can and should be. Now, when you interact with Siri or when you interact with Alexa, what are you doing? You're asking. It's more of that, you need permission to do this, right? It's like, oh, can you do this? Can I do this? As to where if it's a keyboard in front of you, I can do whatever the fuck I want as long as I'm smart enough, as long as I know enough Python, as long as I know enough XYZ. I'm good. I can force my device to do what I want it to do. As to where when you are dealing with voice assistants, which the Halo band would be in many ways, or when you are subservient to, servers far away, which are just somebody else's computers under control of somebody else. No, you have to ask. It's more of that permission-based culture, which is a problem. But anyway, that's getting into a much larger abstract, but I think it's an important point to bring up at this time. But let's continue on. Anyway, I'll read a little bit about what it does have. The Halo band doesn't deliver notifications to your wrist, but it's packed. I mean, again, I think that's a good thing, but there's the underlying problems. But it's packed with health tracking sensors like a temperature sensor, accelerometer, and a heart rate monitor. The band also comes with 2 built-in microphones, and because you got to ask, got to ask permission. Can I do this, Amazon? Is that okay with you? As to where, the good old days, you had that computer in front of you, you had a nice ThinkPad in front of you. Do this, motherfucker. Yeah. That's how computing's supposed to be, but okay. I guess not in the 21st century. Moving on. The band also comes with 2 built-in microphones, and there's a physical button for turning them on or off. Well, at least we can turn them off. Whew, that's good. Amazon says it should last for a whole week on a single charge. Of course, that only makes sense. The app is divided into, and it's all right. So let's see. The band itself is fairly basic because much of the interaction happens in the Halo app. The app is divided into a few main sections: activity, sleep, body, and tone. Activity, as its name implies, houses your activity data. Rather than just tracking calories or active minutes, Amazon's Halo app offers a point system. Wearers can earn points based on their activity, with more rigorous physical activities earning more points. And rather than setting a daily goal, Halo provides a weekly goal of 150 points. You'll also lose points if you remain sedentary for too long throughout the day. Like many other fitness trackers, the Halo band also tracks sleep metrics such as time spent asleep and awake in stages of sleep. Since it has a temperature sensor, it can also monitor skin temperature while sleeping. The app also includes a selection of labs, which are digital programs that help you progress toward certain wellness goals. And of course, with those labs, I mean, it's going to be like, like Alexa tasks, right? Is that what they call them? Where other companies like Walgreens could probably get in on this. Rite Aid, you go down the list. Look, I want to be clear on a couple things here. One, as far as the sleep goes, we have an orgy of data that sleep trackers suck. They don't work. They don't do the job. Okay. I mean, at best, they're they're not even a stone's throw from accuracy of how well you slept. Okay. A sleep tracker doesn't know the difference between you sleeping or dancing in many ways. Okay. So that, and we've talked about that many times about the problems with sleep trackers and how they really just don't work. And I don't think that Amazon reinvented the wheel here as far as sleep tracking goes. The other thing is that rigorous physical activities. This is something that I've brought up many times, testing many fitness trackers. And as somebody who takes his fitness incredibly seriously, works out multiple hours almost every day. Okay. And and I'm not boasting. I'm just making the point. As you can see from pictures of me, I am a person who is in pretty goddamn good shape. Okay. If you want to judge me by my bench, right? If you want to lay out metrics, I can bench pretty good. So, I mean, really, like, I work out, and it is one of the primary thrusts and activities that I do in my life. I enjoy it so much. Okay. Fitness trackers. Now, what I do is, I go to Planet Fitness or whatever gym, or I'm at the home gym or whatever, and I do weightlifting. I do resistance training, right? I mean, and I wouldn't call myself a bodybuilder, but certainly that's the kind of body I like to go for and I like to maintain. All right. Fitness trackers do nothing for that. Basically what I'm saying is that the Amazon Halo would have no fucking clue if, I did an insane 2-hour chest workout. It's going to know if I did cardio, sure. But then what if you're somebody who doesn't believe in cardio? And believe me, there are a lot of people where that works. And you've got to understand, with working out, that is a very, very individualized, personalized situation. What's good for the goose may not be good for the gander when it comes, especially to weight training. All right. Or to physicality, to physical fitness overall. Some people respond to cardio significantly differently than others. There is no one size fits all for this sort of thing. And I guarantee you this app is tracking, just the most basic stuff. Oh, did you go for a walk today? Did you go for a run today? Did you get in your 10,000 steps? Did you do this? And even that metric is horseshit. And so this does nothing. But again, part of the problem here is that all of that data is attached genuinely to insurance companies, either by proxy or directly. That's a concern. Okay. Is that, these are things that no fitness tracker really does very well. Ironically, the only argument I've ever made for why you would want a fitness tracker is to get notifications, and yet that's not what this one does. But let's read on a little bit because there's more to talk about. But one of Halo's standout features is its ability to measure body fat percentage. Halo uses Amazon's machine learning and computer vision technology to create a 3D scan of your body using your phone's camera. A deep neural network that's been trained to understand how images of a person relate to the properties of their body, like fat and muscle, analyzes the data according to blah, blah, blah. Amazon's medical officer. They have one. Although it can't actually see fat, the neural network looks at areas where fat is commonly found, like the torso, thighs, and mid-back. The app can also generate models that show your body shape could change as your body fat percentage increases or decreases. Amazon says anyone should be able to take a body scan in the Halo app so long as they have a room to stand between 4 and 6 feet away from their phone. The company also says the user should wear tight, minimal clothing to get the best results. Amazon claims this method of calculating body fat percentages is as accurate as those a doctor would use and twice as accurate as those used by smart home scales. I'm sure it's better than a home scale. Okay, but body fat percentage being done by an app, this is probably something very much in the testing phase, and I'm sure would deliver great results for somebody who's really trying to, not the person trying to shed the last 10 pounds, and I say this with no disrespect, but I'm saying a person who is probably trying to lose a significant amount of weight. That person might get like some kind of nice dopamine rush or boost from using this kind of feature. But if you are somebody who's in the top 5 to 1% of fitness amongst the genus of humanity that is known as humanity, not the species, but anyway, even the genus, I could talk about that, but that's a whole other subject. I don't think this is going to do anything for you, and it's not for you. So, because also if you're at that stage, you probably know how to listen to your body, and no app can tell you half as much as what your body can tell you, right? I'm reminded actually of the Nietzsche quote that is, and I love this. There's more philosophy in your body, or there's more truth in your body than in, however that goes, than in a million philosophers or than in 100 philosophers' words, something like that. Basically, your body can tell you more truths than any philosophy can. Well, let me assure you of this. Your body can tell you far more than any machine or AI or whatever could possibly try, if you can listen to it. Just like if you can listen to your body, well, maybe you don't need all those philosophies out there. But again, that's getting into a much larger abstract issue here, or much larger abstract conversation. But let's move on. The other hallmark capability, and this is the big one, is Halo's ability to analyze the emotional tone of your voice. Let's read it. If you've ever wondered whether you've come across as being agitated during the recent team meeting, Amazon's tone feature should help, the company claims. Amazon's tone uses AI to analyze the positivity and energy in your voice to help you better understand how you sound to others, the company says. The microphones on the Halo band pick up your speech and analyze qualities like pitch, intensity, tempo, and rhythm to estimate your mood during the conversation. I am sure that Amazon's tone would be losing its AI mind if it listened to me, especially while I record Sovryn Tech. But continuing, even though I am one of the happiest people on the fucking planet. But let's continue. As shown in the image above, and you can see it, the app can provide a report estimating whether you sounded positive or negative throughout the day, and even highlight specific standout moments. The goal of a feature like this, according to Amazon's medical officer, is to help customers reflect on how they sounded in recent conversations. Customers. You must opt into the tone feature in order for it to work by creating a voice profile. If you choose to opt in, Amazon says tone will run in the background and analyze short samples of speech throughout the day. The band collects speech samples, processes them within the Halo app, and then automatically deletes those snippets, meaning they can't be played back even by the user. So, okay, again, like I said, that's great that they want to claim that it ends up getting deleted. However, all it takes is some kind of third-party integration to where I could imagine, and you giving it permission. I mean, look, Amazon's doing it right. They know the privacy concerns around this because they've ran into their own fiascos with Alexa, and other companies have run into fiascos as far as collection of voice data as well. I mean, that's not even getting into the transcriptions that were being sent and in fact, we don't even have clarity on that, because one of the things that we found out, I think it was last year, was that Amazon workers were potentially able to, okay, fine. They couldn't hear what you said to an Echo, right? To Alexa, but they could read a transcript, and they got away through some legal gymnastics. They got away with doing that. Oh, no. We didn't listen to your conversation, but we read it through the transcription. Now, I don't know if there's any guarantees around, whether or not there's going to be a transcript there. Now, you could argue that it doesn't matter, because if this is about tone, okay. But again, it must literally be always listening, or at least doing bursts of listening. And they say that it all gets done locally. And that's funny too, because Amazon's basically admitting what I have said, is that data should be handled locally and deleted locally. It should not be going off to a server. Amazon is effectively saying that is how privacy should be done. How many apps, regardless of the regardless of the implementation or purpose, actually do that? Almost none. Amazon is proving so many points that Sovryn Tech has said, this is how you do security and privacy. This is how you respect the individual. And I mean, in fact, I don't have to go any further. This is how you respect the individual. No other app maker is even trying. Now, I'm not going to give Amazon credit, because I think they're going to worm their way around this, and they're going to figure out how to end up using it anyway. But regardless of that, I really don't expect another human being to, because they say that, well, this is attached to artificial intelligence. Okay. Look, a lot of people operate under a lot of different auspices, and, the way that one person talks can mean something completely differently than how they actually feel inside. It can have no meaning whatsoever. Okay. Here's an example. And I bring this guy up with respect. I mean, with absolute respect. And I am not insulting him at all, because I think he's a brilliant fucking guy. And I've always enjoyed his insights and what he brings to the table whenever he is on other tech podcasts. Amazon Halo would have a field day with Harry McCracken. Okay. Again, it's more of this, well, everybody's kind of the same. And so AI can judge whether or not, you had a positive interaction or whatever. I mean, what is this going to turn into? Is this going to turn into where if I say, fuck, goddamn shit, pussy, but I don't know, whatever, and I say all these things, I mean, is it going to start like charging me? Is it going to say, well, Brian, I don't think we like your attitude. This is leading to all kinds of issues. When it's an auto insurance thing, is it going to end up saying that, oh, well, you clearly had road rage because we could tell by the Halo app, and so your auto insurance, which Amazon is a part of, you're screwed. Oh no, you're not allowed to say that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this sounds so 1984, or maybe it ends up sounding like, how about this?
Sanctimonious asshole.
Melina Huxley, you are fined 1/2 credit for a sotto voce violation of the verbal morality statute.
Thank you.
Gun, noun, portable firearm. This device was widely utilized in the urban wars of the late 20th century. Referred to as a pistol.
Look, I don't need a history lesson. Come on, Hal. Where the goddamn guns?
You are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
What? Fuck you.
Your repeated violation of the verbal morality statute has caused me to notify the San Angeles Police Department. Please remain where you are for your reprimand.
Yeah, right. Fuckers are fast, too.
You are fined 1 credit for violation of the verbal morality statute.
Illegal. Alcohol, caffeine, contact sports, meat.
Are you shitting me?
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
What the hell is that?
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit.
Bad language, chocolate, gasoline, uneducational toys, and anything spicy.
Zach Lamb? What happened to you?
I got older.
My God. I remember when you were a snot-nosed rookie pilot.
They finally grounded me.
Shit. You're a damn good flyer.
You are fined 2 credits for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
I'll be right back.
They seem to be friends, Yet he speaks to him in the most profane manner.
Well, if you had read my study, you would know that this is how insecure heterosexual males used to bond.
I knew that.
Thanks a lot, you shit brain. Pain in the ass.
For repeated violations of the verbal morality statute.
So much for the seashells. See you in a few minutes.
Termination in wars and urban disturbances of the 19th and 20th century.
Oh, shit.
You are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
Yes! Now, this is what I'm talking about. How do you get in here? Hey, you gotta wait that 15-day waiting period? Or can I just, take one now? Oh, motherfucker!
You are fined.
So what, it needs batteries? What size? I mean, where the fuck do you find batteries in the future? Was a battery store around, motherfucker?
Excuse me, museum patron.
Take me to dinner at Taco Bell. Lord knows I wouldn't mind a burrito. There's also one of the guys that built the goddamn cryo prison.
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit
Thanks.
for a violation.
Dr. Cocteau is the most important man in San Angeles.
He had a full 10 seconds to figure out where to put the hole in your fucking head.
John Spartan, this display of barbaric behavior was unacceptable even in Phoenix's presence or your own.
Wonder about this shithead.
John Spartan,
If you think you got this maniac under control, trust me, you don't.
Is that where we're going, folks? The verbal morality statute? Is that Demolition Man? Are we going down that road? Is it gonna, if we're angry enough, is it gonna call the cops? Why not? Ring video doorbell already does, or should I say that data gets handed over to the police at the drop of a hat. What is the purpose behind this? What? Actually, to quote the character Simon Phoenix from the movie Demolition Man that you were just hearing some audio from, and I hope you all remember that scene, or those scenes, it's a whole string of them. People have a right to be assholes. And there isn't a company on the planet that should collect or give a shit about what kind of mood I'm in, or whether or not you had a positive customer experience. Are you? We're to the point where now we're gauging consumers' mood based upon their voice patterns, whether or not, I don't know what you're going to advertise, even though they said it's not going to be used for advertisements, but then they said it's for customers. I sense some contradictions here, but far worse. I know you have to sign up you have to agree to it. It's not going to be on by default. Well, that's great. I'm glad that it's not on by default. Of course, I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. But much like, there's the argument, right? There's the argument of where people say that, well, because you'll get news organizations or you'll get activists or whatever who will say, oh, they're trying to pass this bill in the Senate in the US or in this state or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And then, you have you have people, using that term loosely, you have people that will come out and say, yeah, but there's a million crazy, bills that try to get passed that say, oh, you have to do this to get pregnant or to qualify or blah, blah, blah. But most of them never pass. So stop raising the alarm bells. Well, while I agree, you might not want to get alarmist about stupid bills that are attempted to get passed and never would. What you should get alarmist about is that there are moronic politicians. I'm sorry, that's kind of redundant to say. There are morons who think that these stupid bills that they're trying to pass are somehow a good idea. Now, take that logic, or lack thereof, here. Someone at Amazon, to the tune of getting this concept of tone implemented into the Amazon Halo wristband, they thought this was a good idea. because you can come to me and you can say all the time, well, no one's going to turn that on. Oh, no one's going to use it. Oh, it probably won't even work. None of that matters. What matters is, I've said this many times for pretty much a decade, as long as this show has existed, I've always said, do not follow the money, follow the attitude. The attitude of the people at Amazon is that you should be grinning from ear to ear and you should be happy about every little goddamn thing. And if you're not, we're going to let you know. We're going to give you a full AI analysis on whether or not you are a happy-go-lucky person who the fuck's going to be happy-go-lucky in the world we're living in right now? This is about the dumbest time to ever implement this kind of feature, to even offer it. But again, it's one of the dumbest things you could possibly fucking offer. This is creepy on a level beyond most other technologies I've ever even heard of, let alone actually released to the consumer public. And I ask you, how far does this go? What's the next little feature to take advantage of tone that comes out of labs, right? Does this get handed over to the police? Because, well, I can imagine lawyers would love this. Yes, according to, the Halo app, it is very clear that the defendant was quite put out, before he committed whatever act, blah, blah, blah. You think that won't happen? One of the biggest issues one of the hurdles, I should say, that I think a lot of us have to really face, and no one wants to, because they tried to laugh it off when a lot of these, encroaching technologies were just theorized. People would call in, I don't know, they'd call into Art Bell, or they'd call into, whatever quote unquote kook show. And I don't necessarily, I'm saying that in a conventional sense, what people think, they call into this, they call into that, and like, oh, no. The US government's not doing that. They're not turning on your webcam. They're not tracking what you watch. They're not tracking this. And then, Snowden revelations happen. And even before then, right? AT&T with their hotel rooms where they're, that are basically listening posts. Yes, folks, that was in the early aughts. Go down the list of it. All of these things that people say, oh, no, they're not doing that. Oh, they'd never do that. Oh, the government wouldn't go that far. Oh, blah, blah. No, it all ended up being far worse than any of us ever really imagined. And that's why when you say, oh, Stallion, Dr. Sovryn, aren't you going on a bit of a limb here? No. I was like you years ago, decades ago, where I thought, oh, no, come on, they're not going to, no, they wouldn't really do that. Yeah, maybe it's possible, but they wouldn't really do that. And even I was wrong. Pretty much every distance that any of this technology can go, any tyrannical use that can be done with any of this kind of technology, personally, I think you're an idiot not to think that it wouldn't be used in that way. It's to the point of, well, of course they're going to use it for that. But then you're going to strap it on your wrist. The cognitive dissonance here. Mighty thick. I mean, look, I can appreciate people wanting to be more positive, and maybe wanting to be kinder, more empathetic. Those are very good things. And I mean it. They are very good things. But let me tell you, if you're not angry, you are not paying attention. And I will not allow an app, a smartphone, a technology to give me a rating on how the fuck I feel. I mean, I can just picture here, my smartphone's going nuts. So, boy, Brian, you seem quite angry. Yes, because you are trampling on my very existence. You are implying how I should act. I should be more positive. I should be this. In the face of all the horse shit going on right now, in the face of that orange ass hat that's sitting in a chair in some office that happens to be elliptical. Are you kidding? The world doesn't need positivity right now. The world needs a hard look at how the fuck we got here. How did we get this far? How did it get this bad? How did we allow it to be like it is right now? How did that moron get in office? Why are there offices? Haven't we gotten past all this? I mean, you'd think it'd be, governments would be like war, where haven't we realized this stuff should be completely out of fashion by now? Have we grown up at all? Let me guess. We need an app for that. We need an app, right? This is preposterous. This is going down roads and directions that, I'll admit it. I didn't see this coming at all. I could never have imagined that, because it's absolutely dystopian. The idea that you are wearing a type of tech or any kind of technology, that you are wearing something that is going to, give you a rating on just how goddamn happy you are. I mean, hey, fine. You want to rock a mood ring or something like that? Ooh, it's all red. I am in love. All right, great. If you need an app to tell you how happy you are or to assess how you've interacted with other people, holy shit, do I fear for the species. You don't know? You don't know if you were kind today? You don't know if you were nice enough? We're screwed. We're screwed. Put that in your Halo app. I'll be back with more.
Tired of school?
Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife?
Like to travel?
Let's go back into history. Let's reach out and touch someone.
Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them. Bogus.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Issues of privacy, security, and social engineering. It's HackSec.
Just went and made some toilet paper by swearing into my Amazon Halo wristband. No, are you kidding me? I'm not wearing one of those fucking things. All right. Well, anyway, I wish I could say we're getting into some good news, but we're not. In fact, I don't know if there's going to be, I think we opened up with some good stuff, some interesting directions that things are going. It's not all bad news, but well, anyway, bad news that I never really thought that I would be talking about, but we've got to talk about this. I had someone the day, actually, like before it was even publicly announced. I know that employees of Mozilla were tweeting about this, and I had some intrepid Sovryn Tech listeners tag me on Twitter about it. Real quick about Twitter, folks. If my Twitter account looks blank and empty, that is by my design, by the way. I know some people were concerned that maybe my account got cracked into. Not the case. Anyway, I did that. Still have plenty of people tweeting at me, and I'm honored by it. And, feel free. I'm still deciding on what exactly my Twitter strategy is going forward. But I'll tell you something that strategy that I don't trust going forward, that's coming from Mozilla. And basically, employees who were laid off or relieved from Mozilla's employ took to Twitter, letting everybody know, hey, actually they're getting rid of a lot of their security team. There were a lot of people as of, I want to say this was around August 20th, August 21st, around there. There were quite a few people. Let's see, approximately, I think it was 250 employees And then 60 others were relieved, and then 60 others were moved to different teams. There was a whole write-up by Mozilla about this shakeup. Basically, what's going on is that they are claiming to be refocusing with Firefox and with Mozilla in general, and that COVID-19 has just, taken a real toll on the company. And so they had to let almost 300 people go. And then, shift some other people around. Again, a lot of this has affected, security teams within and security in general at Mozilla, as far as I can tell, as far as what I have been told, and based upon the teams and departments and people that have been let go or have been shuffled around. Mozilla's restructuring. These are their main goals as of this month, August of 2020, focusing Firefox on users. I kind of figured they were already doing that, but I don't know. I guess they got this is part of the restructuring. So before they weren't focusing on Firefox on users. Okay. Investing in new products. There's an interesting, we've talked about this, where there could end up being a Firefox premium in 2020. Even we've talked about this, and there have been inclinations or hints from Mozilla employees that they are looking to do that, to have like a subscriber model for Firefox. And I've even made the argument, that could get really, really interesting if there's a great privacy and security, feature set that is only baked into Firefox, and that you could pay a one-time fee for. Maybe that does, VPN, which they already have, and we've talked about and reviewed, and could implement, PGP right into it, and all this great stuff. There's an argument to be made for that. But based on what I've read from Mozilla's statement, these new products that they're looking at, it basically looks like they're trying to do Firefox OS again, which if you want to do Firefox OS and again, concentrate on security and privacy, fine. But it sounds like they want to do Firefox OS to get back, and I said back because they tried this before, to get back into consumer products like Firefox TV. That was a thing a few years ago, folks. We talked about it. And I said how it was a horrible idea then. Well, it's not a good idea now either. Next note of restructuring: centralizing marketing on both new products and core business, and reinvigorating the community. All four of those things, except for maybe the new products. How are those like part of restructuring? That's just what you should be fucking doing, Mozilla. But to pour salt on this wound, basically just hours after, and I've confirmed this, I've had people from Mozilla or ex-employees of Mozilla reach out to me, but I've also, I've also done some, I want to verify what they're telling me. I'm not saying I don't believe them, but, and really just a few hours after those people were let go, Mozilla inked a deal, not a new deal, but a re-up basically with Google to the tune of about $450 million to allow for Google to be the default search engine in Firefox until 2023. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but somehow I think $500 million would probably go pretty far to cover the paychecks of those 250 people that they let go. Also, to blame this, to blame these relieving of duty of employees, firing, let's just call it, the firing of employees on COVID-19. Frankly, that just doesn't make sense. If anything, with COVID-19 going on, if I were Mozilla, what would I be doing? If I would be doubling down on securing and tightening up the code for WebRTC and, bolstering WebRTC overall. That is completely baked into, basically, a few years ago with WebRTC, Mozilla baked in audio and video calling right into the web browser to where you didn't have to have separate software or anything like that. Boy, wouldn't you think that'd be an amazing thing to take advantage of during COVID-19? Yes, it would. The fact that COVID-19 whatever the reality around that is, the fact that most people are now being forced to work remotely, okay, and from their PC, from their computer, the fact that the browser is now more important than ever should actually lead to really Firefox getting a lot more money from, whatever angels, wherever they get their funding from. Like, it doesn't make sense. This should be COVID-19. And I'm not saying, that they should see it as a good thing, but it should be a boon for their business, not a detraction. They shouldn't be losing money. They should be gaining tons of money. And there are specific things that they should really be concentrating on. Like, I would have ran to the fact that Firefox has native video conferencing. I would have been marketing the fuck out of that. So, the idea that COVID-19 is hurting Mozilla doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, what does this really all mean? Okay. First off, can Mozilla, is this them? Hey, we got to cut this off and, we're going to try the premium thing. And could that still end up all being a good thing? Sure. I think the ultimate question that a lot of people are asking about this shakeup at Mozilla is that, or not, again, I said just a lot of people and mainly it's listeners, but I know what a lot of you are asking because you've asked me. Stallion, are you still recommending Firefox? Now, it's interesting that about 4 or 5 episodes ago, I got an email that we covered during important messages. I got an email from a mother who was asking, hey, I understand, how important the web browser is. My kid is growing up and they're going to get stuck into an ecosystem probably. Which one do you think they should get stuck in? And I think at the end of that, I more or less said, yeah, Firefox is kind of still the direction to go because, they've got the right philosophy. Well, as some of these employees have stated, or ex-employees of Mozilla have stated, it is an entirely new Mozilla. The Mozilla that is running Firefox now is a completely different company and does not have the same philosophies that the Mozilla of yore had. That is a problem. Okay. And this speaks to, again, don't follow the money, follow the attitude. Because frankly, I think all their money woes are horseshit. Now, Mozilla doesn't even have 5% of browser market share. Is that accurate? Yeah, by depending upon the metric, yes. I get that. That's not, there are certainly browsers out there that would kill for that kind of share, but that's not like the greatest numbers, right? I understand. I hear you. So do I still recommend Firefox? Frankly, look, Firefox is still at this time, because it could change. Now, Firefox is still open source. And so, Firefox would never really die. And there are already forks of Firefox, right? Like there's, IceFox, there used to be Pale Moon. I don't know, like there's a bunch of these. And of course the Tor, the Tor browser is a fork of Firefox and so on. And that's great. And I want those to still exist. Now with, let's break this down similar to what we did. And I'm glad that I'm glad that we recently discussed this because we can reference back and forth. And now I think there's something that I brought up before needs to get reiterated when we answered that question about what browser should I be using, right? Which is a great question to update frequently. If you're using, as I said in that episode, just a few episodes ago, if you're using Apple products, stick with Safari. I think Safari's dynamite. It's great. I use it on my iOS devices all the time. Okay. Stick with Safari, rock solid browser. If you're using Windows, you happen to be using Windows and maybe even Android, I think Edge is a fine option. For security, yeah, no, it's not open source. I understand that. But then we don't know what the future of Firefox is either. Okay. Will something come up to take its place? I'm sure. But until that day comes, we've got to go with some other options here. And again, I do not like what I heard about how things are running at Mozilla right now. So, use Edge, right? Because at the very least, you're engaging in a sense of security based around, software and account minimalism. Okay. I know. I've used Credge. I've put it through the tests. It does the job. It works really well. And as far as battery life on a Windows laptop, it's fucking phenomenal. And when it's available on Linux, is it going to be worthwhile to try? Maybe. Especially if you're a person where most of your life is more on your phone, but you have a Linux laptop waiting at home. I understand. Okay. Now, if you are using Linux though, and say Edge isn't the option yet, okay, And I'm not saying necessarily like if you are a full on open source, cat, I get it. Okay. Maybe if you're using KDE, I don't know, use Conqueror or something like that. Something I brought up when the mother asked that question into the show, I had said, damn, I wish Vivaldi was open source because that is a great browser. It can do everything Firefox does. And it's so much lighter weight than Firefox. Like, I mean, just my computer never gets hot. The fans don't start spinning almost no matter how many, or at least when it's a comparable amount of browser tabs open compared to my, instance of Firefox and so on. Vivaldi's fantastic. It can sync across to an Android device, not iOS, but an Android device. And it's available basically on every platform otherwise than iOS. It is a solid, rock solid option. And, if you are going through with what works and what seems to be respecting of you and is working on just being a really great, powerful yet lightweight browser, Vivaldi is the one. Okay. Like really. So, and that's not new. I was saying this before this whole shakeup happened, before there was even a whiff of any kind of shakeup going down. And this was largely a surprise. And I think we should really pay attention to the fact that the Google deal that Mozilla inked was done just hours after this, layoff or after this firing. Nasty business, but I would be very wary of Mozilla right now. I would be very wary of what their plans are. Someone will pick up the torch if Mozilla somehow goes under, even as a nonprofit. But I mean, there's still a company ultimately. Someone will pick up that torch. There are other, there's a lot of more minor browsers out there. I think now is the time for them to really ramp up reaching out to people to get them used. But again, I think the best thing that you can always do is to rock software minimalism. Now, I mean, if you're on Linux and you keep rocking, Firefox or whatever, or maybe you use IceCat, right, from the Free Software Foundation or something. I mean, you know what you've got going on then. I don't have to tell you, and you're keeping an eye, you're keeping a close eye on your network and everything. You know what's going on, and there's nothing fishy happening, right? But I think for the everyday user and to have like a really powerful desktop browser, I think Vivaldi is, now more so, it's worth looking at because the future of Firefox is very much in question. And I'm very concerned over the fact that what they basically laid off was that they dropped the security people. Or at least a lot of them. Like, well, what? You should be hiring more. It doesn't even make sense. And, admittedly too, I mean, the best thing we can do as tech enthusiasts is to somehow educate people to be not just users, but power users, right? And maybe that's what Mozilla meant when they said focusing Firefox on users, because maybe before they felt like, well, we're focusing on power users. But then that's exactly who you want, because those are the passionate people. Those are the people, that are your great use cases of, that you can show off to investors or whatever. But no, if it's all about just getting install numbers and everything else. And look, I know Mozilla tried. I got to be fair, right? Because like with WebMaker and other things, Mozilla has really, really tried to educate people on the importance of understanding how this technology works and so on, and maybe even getting into coding and whatever else. But to like leave that behind, I'd almost rather they just throw in the towel instead of like pretending that there's some kind of company that really, that no matter what, that money's not even, money doesn't matter. That's why we're a nonprofit. Money doesn't matter. What matters is an open web, privacy, and security. They can't really pretend that anymore, in my opinion. I'll tell you, the company that could step up to the plate and really do something amazing with this, and they're already doing it on mobile. Here's my take. Here's my theory. Like I said, I might recommend looking at Vivaldi. Okay. Putting that out there. There are other options certainly, to look at. You have Falcon, right? I mean, the problem is with some of these minor ones is that their development teams are sometimes really small or even just one person. And that's kind of worse than, firing a good chunk of your security team, right? I'm not knocking their efforts. I think they're doing beautiful things. And of course they rely on code from other projects, other browser projects. But, I do worry about that. But here's my proposition. I think DuckDuckGo, because they already have yes, they're Chromium based, and I don't want everything to be Chromium based. Of course, you know that. We don't like monoculture here on Sovryn Tech. I think DuckDuckGo could jump on a browser, a desktop browser, and then link it. If they wanted to, and there's ways to go about this. Firefox did it previously with Sync. There's ways to have those work between, mobile and desktop if they want that to be an option, but it should be something that you opt into and so on, not opt out of. But DuckDuckGo is about the only company I can think of right now that could somehow lead the charge and fill in the gap that I feel like Mozilla is leaving with their dramatic change in focus, structure, and what they are either doing with Firefox or frankly not, sadly. So yeah, be very wary. As it stands, based on the intel I've got, I would start, and I don't mean processors, I would start migrating away from Firefox. I can't believe I'm saying that, because I figured this is the company that basically the rest of the tech world just always wanted to have out there, because, we need open source and they recognize that. But maybe that's not the direction that things will end up going. And Mozilla is basically kowtowing to the almighty dollar. Anyway, check out Vivaldi, and who knows, maybe DuckDuckGo will pick up the torch and run with it on this one. I'll be back with more Sovryn Tech. Woo!
Journey into the far reaches of aquaspace.
Attention, security breach. Brace for impact. Seal outer doors, rig for collision.
Launch countermeasures.
From Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment Inc. and Universal Television comes a journey into the future and beneath the sea. Roy Scheider stars in Sequest DSV.
You can watch Sequest by downloading it from your favorite torrent site or getting it on glorious DVD. For beneath the surface lies the future.
Your questions, the man of tomorrow's answers. Email questions@sovryntech.com. Time for important messages.
So I got an email from a listener, and I know that people also raised the alarm on this in the Sovryn Tech Polytechnic Telegram group, which if you want to join that, all you got to do is have Telegram installed, and you just click on the link in the show notes for Telegram, and boom, you're in. There is a bot there that is a bit of a gatekeeper to make sure that you're actually a Sovryn Tech listener, but it's a question to get through and you'll be good. In fact, in the Telegram group, there have been a lot of people that have started joining, that have been clicking on a link, joining the Telegram group, who are pretty clearly, they've been running scams, basically. Now, while Sovryn Tech is a show that for almost 10 years has been talking about Bitcoin and blockchain tech, both praising and criticizing where necessary. We love Bitcoin, no questions there. And I mean Bitcoin, BTC. We like Bitcoin. Okay. It is odd that somehow suddenly all of these people were coming into the group, and that's why we had to put the bot in place, and a special thank you to a great listener. You know who you are. We had to put a bot in place to basically stop these bots or, these accounts from running crypto scams in the group. And I think I've come to realize where they're all coming from and why they've started to show up. And I'm going to read this email. Okay. But I will say, oh no, let's read the email. Then we'll go into it. And this is from just a top-notch listener. Love this guy. Hey, Brian, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but have you seen this? You might want to consider distancing or distinguishing yourself. And he left a link there, which is sovryn.app. That is the URL that he shared. Now, like I said, other people in the Telegram group also shared this with me. And it is spelled much like my last name, Sovryn. It's not sovereign as in like sovereignty, but it's Sovryn, which, by the way, like I'm, other than Brian Sovryn and Ellen Sovryn, like we're the only people with that name. That is something that is unique, more or less unique to the show. I think maybe some people in Australia had the name or something like that. But in the Bitcoin space, as somebody who I've attended many conferences. I've spoken at many conferences. I have been requested to appear to speak at blockchain Bitcoin conferences. Okay. I am a known quantity in the Bitcoin / blockchain space. So the term sovereign being used for this Sovryn app, did they come up with it on their own? No. Am I associated with what this is? No, not at all. Never have been. Let's read on a bit here with the email. It claims, so this is an app that is coming soon, by the way. That's why it's sovryn.app. But let's keep reading. It claims to be composed of things you and I greatly dislike. Smart contracts. Yep. Oracles. Insurance. For years, I've been meaning to ask you about a very old tweet against life insurance that I remember you making. Perhaps mistaken memory of mine, by the way. No, ask me the question, man. Like, email me. I'm not sure. I am kind of critical of insurance, but it would fit in with the conversation around the Halo app. So, or the Amazon Halo. So ask away. To top, of course, I deleted all my tweets, so I guess I can't remember which one it was, but let's keep going. To top it off, I knew it couldn't be a project of yours. This is from the listener. To top it off, I knew it couldn't be a project of yours since, one, the web page shines bright white. No triple black to be found. Yes, you're right. I make it a point for my websites to be as dark as possible. And of course, everybody knows I am the man in triple black. Anyway, right down to the undies. No, number two, at the bottom, they promote governance tokens. Jesus fucking Christ. That's what the emailer said. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be behind that because, of course, I'm an anarchist. Going on, if it's not a scam or vaporware, it might have interesting features. Seems to be Bitcoin only. Awesome. Supposedly open source. Someday. Neato triangular logo. Yeah, that is neato. Of course, that's also like triangle or the pyramid is also part of Sovryn Tech's symbology, I guess you could say, iconography. Awesome name, but I dislike non-originality of them, assuming they are unrelated to you. Yeah, they are totally unrelated to me. I have nothing to do. I don't think I've ever talked to these people. I don't know if I ever reached out to them as a sponsor of any kind. Now, I looked into their Twitter account. So their Twitter account was apparently created in August of 2020. So this is really, really new and kind of came out of nowhere. But I thought there was an exchange called Sovryn that had been around for a little while. Like someone, but I think it didn't have the Y in it. Like it was just SOVRN, which I mentioned them in the past. And I said, it's like, I think somebody's copying me here. Anyway, a part of me wonders because this Sovryn app also has a Telegram group. And if somehow we got conflated and that's why a bunch of crypto is not a scam, but there are scammers in the space, plenty of them, that jumped in. Now, look, there's the chance that somehow the person who made the Sovryn app, if you look at their site, your keys, your control, I don't know what they mean by governance tokens, maybe they're trying to be on the level. They really have like this praise of Satoshi. They're like, this is the exchange that Satoshi would use and so on. And they're definitely, they're using, there's parts of it that I don't exactly get, like join the mutant army and whatever that I wouldn't exactly be behind. maybe they think, I don't know. I don't want to, I don't really care. Like if they want to use my name, again, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in IP, so I'm not going to go after them with an IP. I mean, yeah, they have a triangle logo. In fact, it looks like the Superman symbol. Well, not unironically, for years, people in the crypto space have regularly equated the Superman symbol with me. Like, I mean, they've told me that. Hell, I've had little kids say, yeah, that they're wearing Superman shirts, like at a conference. And the little kid said, no, this doesn't mean Superman. This means Brian Sovryn. Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm just saying that, like, all of these logos and all this iconography and everything, in language, I guess we could say, has been associated with me for a very long time. I mean, look at the, like the Zomia One or Sovryn or classic Sovryn Tech logo. It's not the Superman symbol, but it looks a lot like it, right? It's that diamond shape and whatever. So I could guess, and I hate this. And I know if the emailer was just about anyone else other than the person who emailed me, I would think this was somebody trying to get some free advertising out of me by letting people know that this thing exists. Okay. I don't know anything about the developers here. Their Twitter account, I mean, has not that necessarily means anything, but I mean, it really has practically no followers. There's not a product yet. I guess they're trying to get people in on early access and everything. I have no association with this. If they want to reach out to me and somehow get me associated, I mean, if they know anything about me, my standards are ridiculously stringent. It takes a lot to please me, especially when it comes to crypto, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. I agree. It's great that they're Bitcoin only. I totally applaud that. There's things here though, that I feel like at first blush, I wouldn't agree with. But I don't know what they're doing. I mean, the only thing I can say is this: these kinds of things come and go. Come and go. I have seen so many exchanges come and go that claiming they were doing this and that, some that were on the level, some that were trying to be underground, whatever. And when I say on the level, I mean like on the state level, which is disgusting, but whatever. They come and they go, and they've been coming and going for a decade now. But you know what's still here? Sovryn Tech's still here. I don't need to lay claim to my name because this show does it on its own every week. The thousands and thousands, practically 20,000 listeners per week, are the credit to what's going to last and to what people, associate the term with. So please do not think that I have anything to do with this company. If I ever do, I will tell you. But they're going to have to show, I mean, again, they'd have to show me a lot. I don't even know if I'm ever going to bother reviewing it. They'd have to show me a lot of what they're doing and convince me. And then also they have to show me that they believe in this show. And there are specific ways of going about that if they want, me to be associated with it. I mean, there's a part of me that kind of wants to go after them on Twitter and just say, and, any of my listeners are welcome to do this if you want, and just say, it's like, wow, how unoriginal of you to go with the name Sovryn. And I mean, certainly on their website, they give me no credit, for that. And again, Sovryn is an original to the show. I mean, Sovryn, I mean, that's just, it's my name. Yes, it's a chosen one, but it is my name. It's my name more than any name I've ever had. So that's really all I can say on it. There's things that I like, there's things that I don't like, but it is not me. I have nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with Sovryn.app. They have not talked to me. They have not reached out to me. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're getting their ducks in a row before they were about to reach out to me. Maybe they can explain themselves, whatever. But I mean, if they want to, go out there and try to pretend to be this and that, I guess ultimately, maybe I'm honored because you've associated the name Sovryn with, concepts that Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever she is, laid out. and what Bitcoin can do for the world and all this. I mean, I'm honored that you put that in, or, that you see Sovryn Tech as part of that league, that you see that, that term as part of that. That's fantastic, I guess. But please, folks, do not associate this with me. And if it's, I don't know how I can make that abundantly clear. Maybe I will have to do a tweet to make that abundantly clear. But I've already been giving it way more, talking about it way more than necessary. And then perhaps it deserves, especially since it doesn't exist right now. And I sure as fuck don't trust things that don't exist. That's a hard-earned lesson in the crypto space, because we've been made, crypto enthusiasts, blockchain enthusiasts, Bitcoin enthusiasts, Bitcoin believers, if you want to go that far. We've been given a lot of promises over the years. Bitcoin's the only one that is trudged through the hype. Okay. But that's only the technology, that's not the exchanges. That's not any of the other horseshit around it. So we know not to trust stuff that isn't out there and for us to inspect and to jump on. Okay. But again, to make it abundantly clear, no, I have nothing to do with this. I love Bitcoin. I support Bitcoin, and I am on the, the team of, hey, you want to be Bitcoin only? I get where you're coming from, because again, we've been made a lot of empty promises. I have no idea what this is. All right. And there you have it. So let's move on. I'll be right back with more Sovryn Tech. Hello, Sovrynati. As you know, Sovryn Tech proudly no longer puts content behind a paywall and makes thousands of hours and episodes available to you totally for free. But if you feel that stirring in your cockles or that special feeling in your heart, I beseech you, nay, I implore you to help the show out by donating. Frequenting our sponsors is key, but donations from listeners like you has always made the show go round and round. You can go to sovryntech.com to set up an automatic monthly donation, or you can donate via the Bitcoin address in the show notes. And now you can even donate with the Cash app at cash.app and use the money tag Sovryn Tech. So many ways to help out the show, and I'm honored by all of it, allowing us to build and be the future. Now, let's get back to the show.
Now entering the gaming grid. The latest gaming news, reviews, and retro culture, as only the man of tomorrow can deliver. And here's your host, Brian Sovryn.
Time for the gaming grid. I wish we were getting into more good news. I mean, hey, we're going to get Pikmin 3. That's awesome. And earlier, all right, I'll give you a little bit of good news. So that game, Hypnospace, I keep forgetting the second word in the name. But that game for Switch that just came out. In fact, I'm going to look it up. Let's type in Hypnospace. I even talk about a name that I like. I like that, but Hypnospace Outlaw. What a great name. Anyway, it's an internet simulation, this game. I haven't tried it yet. But what's really cool about it is that, and I hope this has broader ramifications, is that Nintendo specifically asked the developers of Hypnospace Outlaw. Now, this is available on more than Switch. It's on GOG. It's on Steam. It's all over the place. I'm pretty sure might even be on, actually, they even put it on itch.io, which I appreciate. That's where my video games are. Anyway, Nintendo reached out to the developers and said, we would love it if you included mouse and keyboard support in the game for the Switch. Now, what's revolutionary about that is that, of course, the front, if you know, the dock for the Switch, and I don't think that this would work on a Switch Lite with Bluetooth, but on the dock for the Switch, it has two front USB ports. So you could plug in a USB mouse and a USB keyboard, and this internet simulation game, which I'll review in the future, it lets you use the mouse and keyboard just as you would in the 1990s. The game's supposed to take place like in the 1990s internet or on the 1990s internet, which is great in and of itself, right? I love that. But if this keyboard and mouse support could get expanded to first-person shooters on the Switch, oh, baby. I mean, the Switch just did a major one-upsmanship on the PS4 on the PlayStation and Xbox. Let's just say that because I know future generations are coming fast. That's a big deal. I mean, I would love it. Because they keep like the Doom. Okay. Bethesda keeps adding in new features to the classic Doom and Doom 2. New packs that you can download to it totally for free. That are based on WADs, right? And if they would add in keyboard and mouse support, that'd be phenomenal. Again, it'd be one thing if, the developer for Hypnospace Outlaw, they kind of figured out how to, how to weasel that feature in onto a Switch. But no, Nintendo, according to the developer, Nintendo reached out to them and said, you should put this in. Now, where can this go? I think the obvious thing that people are looking at is this means we could get a sequel to Mario Paint. I'm not kidding. And you know what? I think that's great. Do it. Do Mario Paint Switch. I think that would sell gangbusters. And it could be, frankly, revolutionary once again, because it certainly was when it came out in the 90s for the SNES. So I think that's exciting. That if you want good news, there's your good news. Now, not so good news, or news that doesn't really impress me, but you got to let me say my piece here, because I have a sinking feeling about this. Okay, the story I've linked to is from Nintendo Life, and it's GoldenEye 25 shuts down after cease and desist from 007 IP holder. Let's read the story here a little bit. GoldenEye 25, a fan-made effort to resurrect the classic N64 shooter from Rare, is to shut down following a cease and desist request from NGM/Danjak, the rights holder for the James Bond media franchise. So, Stallion breaking in here for a second. If you're wondering, how could a game as popular as GoldenEye for the N64, how come that does not get re-released or put on Nintendo Switch Online or whatever? Well, it's because MGM won't fucking let it. That's it, folks. That's the answer, or at least that's a big part of the answer. Anyway, the aim with the Unreal Engine 4 title, so this is going to be a remake done by supposedly, keyword, supposedly, fans using the Unreal Engine 4, which was inspired by the canceled XBLA HD remake, was to recreate the legendary FPS in time for its 25th birthday in August 2022. The update would enhance the single-player story missions, add modern visuals, and even factor in a few gameplay tweaks. And here's the announcement from the developers for this. Dear fans and followers, we're sad to announce that we've been kindly asked by the IP holder to cease development of GoldenEye 25. This was always in the back of our heads as a possibility, but we've tried our best to keep going. Of course, we will comply and want to thank you for your ongoing support. What do you mean you want to comply? Why? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We cannot do a Bond game, but we can still do a great... See, here's the key paragraph that I have a problem with. We cannot do a Bond game, but we can still do a great game with all the beloved aspects of our favorite 90s action shooter, which, by the way, Stallion breaking in, Ellen keeps kicking my ass at. I love it. She's so good. If you are still interested in following us, please come over to Project Ianus. It's IANUS. Okay. Where we will share development of our new game. This account will be deleted by Friday at the latest. Now, I'm surprised they didn't just rename the account, but I have a real problem with this. And here's where what I feel like is going on in this case. And if not in this case, it'll happen with others. Now, there have been, what was it? Was it not AM2, AMR2, which was it another Metroid remake? Or another Metroid 2 remake, maybe it was AM2R or whatever. Anyway, that was great. I think that was genuinely done by a fan who just wanted to have a modern version of Metroid 2 to come out. Of course, Samus Returns would come out for the 3DS in pretty short order. It's understandable and certainly is not out of place for Nintendo to shut people down. When they try making things like that. There was the Uranium version of Pokemon, which was awesome. By the way, all of these games you can still play. You can still play the Uranium version of Pokemon. You can still play AM2R. You can still play, a lot of these games that were designed to be remakes or expansions of classic Nintendo titles or franchises. Nintendo shuts them down right away. Everybody expects that. We know it's only a matter of time whenever somebody's developing this sort of thing. And usually they shut them down and then that is the end of it. None of those that I mentioned previously, minus GoldenEye 25, has taken their project and just said, okay, now I'm going to turn this into a different game because I can't use this IP, right? Like the IP of James Bond. Here's my problem. As much, and I talked about this on a recent Gaming Grid, as much as I despise the term spiritual successor, I fucking hate that word. Because you know all that is? That's marketing. We're making the spiritual successor to Chrono Cross or Chrono Trigger or whatever. Or we're making the spiritual successor to Breath of Fire. Basically, they're not really making a sequel to Breath of Fire. They are using the marketing term of a franchise that you know, or using the marketing tactic of a franchise that you know, and associating it with what they're doing, and hoping that will draw in an audience, say, longtime fans of the Breath of Fire franchise. Now, there are some cases, like there was a game recently that came out for PlayStation and I think Xbox, that even though it's not a, what was the franchise? Oh, it was Siphon Filter. Okay. So even though it's not a Siphon Filter game in name, there are a bunch of things in the game, right down to the taser and more, that make it abundantly clear. And the storyline, even, I think there's even like documents somewhere in the game that mention Siphon Filter. So they really went all the way to make the game a part of the Siphon Filter universe, but getting away with it, not using the name Siphon Filter in the title. Right. And they're basically reliant upon fans to, that's the right way you can do that if you want to do, but then it's not really a spiritual successor at that point. Right. Like at that stage, it's actually a sequel. Even if they can't put Siphon Filter on the box, everything within the game makes it abundantly clear that's a Siphon Filter sequel. And I think that that's great. But there's a lot of games that, no, they're creating their own universes. It has nothing to do with the universe that they claim they are a spiritual successor to, and they're just using that as a complete marketing tactic. Now, the next marketing tactic that I think is happening in gaming, and I just despise it, is what's happening right here. So they basically, this group of people, and it's a long game to play, that's for sure. But again, if your game gets popular enough, selling enough copies of one game can set you for life, or at the very least can get you on the path to make sequels, and then you are somewhat set for life again. I could believe that these developers, they're like, well, yeah, okay, we can't use this IP, but hey, we're still making a great game. And I could imagine, dev houses pulling this tactic where they know that Nintendo, EA, MGM, whoever is going to shut them down, but they'll have built up enough hype within the long-standing fan community of whatever franchise to where they have an install base. Do you get what I'm saying? And I think just something about that. I mean, it just rubs me the wrong way, right? Because it's a bait and switch. No pun intended to the Nintendo Switch. It's a bait and switch. They know they're going to get shut down. Like they just know it. And they want to get popular enough, right? So they know they're going to get shut down. They do it anyway, and they do it anyway because it's going to get them free press. And then they still have a game that they just have to change a few things into, or change a few things, and then they can release that, out to the public. And this has even happened with games that were being done by very reputable, quote unquote, reputable game developers, dev houses, where they had to switch the IP at the last minute. Or, you could have games like Super Mario Brothers 2, where originally it was not a Mario game, right? And it turned into something else, or Star Fox Adventures, where this sort of thing happens. But now I feel like it's a way of getting some signal out through the noise. And these people know they're never going to be able to release a finished game based upon the franchise that they're getting everybody hyped about. But it's just a way to try and like get some attention and sell their game. And you could say that that's clever. But frankly, I think it's dishonest, incredibly dishonest and nasty. Because, and is there no harm, no foul? I didn't put any money down and I can just say, well, you're not making GoldenEye, so I don't fucking care anymore. Sure, because that's exactly what I said as soon as I read that story. I don't give a shit. If you're not making GoldenEye, I don't care what new game you're making. It doesn't mean anything to me. But I don't like how they're just lying because they're saying, oh, we're so innocent. Oh, poor us. We got our IP taken away, or, we're not allowed to develop for this IP, but we got a great game coming. And I think that's bullshit and I find it annoying. Or another thing they might be trying to do is this could be a roundabout way of them trying to get hired. For example, like the developer who I think was doing it genuinely out of passion because you can feel it in the game. The developer for like Sonic Mania, which is widely regarded the best modern Sonic game, just by a long shot, was originally it was a fan project being developed. And then Sega saw it and said, well, hey, let's hire this guy and let's let him finish his game. Kudos to Sega for that. And I think it's a beautiful story for that developer, to get that. But now I feel like there are going to be a lot of people who are going to do this. They're going to develop fan projects and they're going to use it to weasel their way into their companies, and maybe try to end up getting hired by them. Is that okay? Yeah, whatever, ultimately. But I just don't like that I feel like the intention of a lot of these quote unquote fan projects is to pull a bait and switch. And they do that from the beginning. They know that that's what's going to happen. And I just think you should be wary of that, that can end up happening. And I don't like the dishonesty, and I think I'm also at the same time, I'm putting out the warning. I know what you're doing. I know what you're pulling. I am not, and you know what the real answer to this is? Until there's a finished product in front of you, just fuck it, and look, there's some great stuff. There's great things being developed in Star Wars. There's tremendous games being developed that Rob and I have covered on TIE Fighter Renegades that are being developed that I'm very excited for. But I am always going to walk softly until I have a finished Exie on, or whatever, Tarball, whatever, on my desktop. Because I'm not going to go for the roller coaster with these people and I'm not going to fall prey to their tricks. And I'm not saying any of the Star Wars ones. I think those are, Star Wars is such a unique fandom. Those are people that really give a shit. Okay. But a lot of these other guys, I don't fucking trust them. I don't trust them. So anyway, you know what you can trust? You can trust yourself. You can trust Sovryn Tech. Everything else, well, use your discretion on what you want to do about it. Anyway, that'll be it for this episode of Sovryn Tech. We'll wrap this one up and have another episode out shortly. And actually, if you want other gaming episodes, I've got a lot of specials set to come out covering a lot of classic gaming where, you don't get duped and screwed and bait and switched. Anyway, listen out for that. I will see all of you on the other side.
Thank you for listening to Sovryn Tech, an Osiris One production. Now go out there and make some trouble.
Hey, baby, I know. You are tired of Gmail. You have had enough. Well, I have a solution for you. What I want you to do is you go to Fastmail, okay? It's fastmail.sovereigntech.com. That's the URL you can use. You're going to get a discount with that. You are going to love this. This is email for email's sake. This company does nothing more, just email, and they do it right. All the latest security technologies. You want to log into your account with your YubiKey? You can do that. Fastmail has your hookup. Very inexpensive plans. I want you to check it out. You go to fastmail.sovereigntech.com. That'll get you the hookup, and it's an honor to have them as a part of Sovereign Tech. Woo! Let's get back to the show.